Hello, dear. Welcome again to this English listening practice. Today we have a sad but beautiful love story. It is not only a story of two young people, it is also a story about time, memory, and the power of love. Now let's begin the story. Alex was a young boy who lived in a very small town. The town was quiet, so quiet that even small sounds seemed loud. In the morning, you could hear the roosters crowing from far away. In the evening, you could hear the river moving slowly past the fields. Life was simple. Life was slow. Alex grew up in this quiet place. He was gentle and shy. He did not talk much, and he did not like crowds. He often stayed alone with his books. He loved stories of distant lands, of heroes, of adventures. But in real life, his world was small, and his days felt the same. Deep inside, Alex carried a quiet wish. He wished to meet someone who could understand him. Someone who could see not only his face, but also his heart. He wished for a friend, maybe even something more. But year after year, nothing changed. Then one autumn morning, change finally came. A new family arrived in town. It was unusual. Few people ever moved to this place. The family was different, and people noticed. They brought boxes, bags, and new voices into the quiet streets. And among them was a girl named Lily. Lily was not like anyone Alex had seen before. Her hair was soft and golden, catching the sunlight when she walked. Her eyes were bright, as if they carried their own light. She often carried a small notebook. Sometimes she stopped in the street to write, as if ideas could not wait. She seemed to belong to another world, yet here she was, in this little town. Alex noticed her the first time he saw her. It was only a short glance, but it felt long. His heart beat quickly, too quickly. He did not understand the feeling. It was not fear, but it was not peace either. It was something new. From that day on, Alex began to see Lily everywhere. In the morning, he saw her walking to school with her notebook pressed to her chest. At midday, he saw her standing under the shade of a tree, her pen moving across the page. In the evening, he saw her by the river, watching the water as if it carried secrets. Each time he saw her, something inside him moved. His chest felt tight. His heart felt heavy and light at the same time. He did not know what to say, so he said nothing. He only watched. Day after day, Alex's quiet life began to change. He walked where he thought Lily might be. He stayed longer at the river, hoping she would appear. He lingered in the market, pretending to look at fruit, but secretly waiting for a glimpse of her. And when he did see her, even from far away, his world felt brighter. The town itself was the same. The streets were still narrow. The houses still looked old. The nights were still dark. But for Alex, everything was different now. Because in his world there was Lily. And though he never spoke to her, though they were still strangers, Alex felt that his story had begun. Not a story from a book, not a story of faraway places, but a story of his own heart, a story that would change his life forever. The days passed slowly in the small town, But for Alex, they no longer felt the same, because now his life carried a quiet brightness. That brightness was Lily. Every afternoon, Alex walked to the river. The river was not wide, but it was steady. Its water moved gently, carrying reflections of the sky. Sometimes the water was silver under the moonlight. Sometimes it was gold under the sun. For Alex, the river became a secret place, a place where his feelings felt stronger and clearer. Lily also liked the river. She often went there with her notebook. She would sit on a rock or stand by the bank, just watching, just listening. She wrote down her thoughts. Sometimes she closed her eyes and simply breathed in the soft air. The river seemed to calm her, the same way it calmed Alex. And so, slowly, without words, their paths began to cross. They walked the same paths. They stood under the same trees. They watched the same water. Day after day, their presence became familiar to each other. They were no longer just two strangers. They were two lives quietly moving closer. In the evenings, the world around them seemed softer. The sky turned from blue to orange, then from orange to deep purple. The stars appeared one by one, tiny sparks in the dark. The moon shone brightly, painting the river with silver light, and in that quietness, Alex felt something grow inside him. It was not only interest. It was not only curiosity. It was care. It was love. Love came to Alex like the slow rising of the sun. It did not appear suddenly. It rose step by step, moment by moment, until it filled his whole heart. When he saw Lily smile, the world seemed lighter. When he saw Lily look serious, the world seemed heavier. His days began to move with her moods, with her presence. And Lily, too, began to notice Alex. She saw him near the river often. She saw him walking slowly, always with a thoughtful face. She saw him glance at the sky, at the water, as if searching for something. And little by little, she began to feel less alone in this new town. His quietness was different from others' quietness. It was not emptiness. It was gentleness. It was not weakness. It was peace. The connection grew, unspoken but real. They shared silence together. They shared space together. And in that silence, in that space, something unbreakable was forming. One evening, as the sky turned dark and the stars covered the night, Alex and Lily stood by the river. The air was cool, and the water carried the moon like a mirror. They did not speak, but their hearts spoke. In that moment, an invisible promise was made. It was a promise to care for each other. It was a promise to stay together. It was a promise that even if life was uncertain, their bond would remain. Promises like these are not written in books. They are not signed on paper. They are written in the heart. They are carried in memory. They are silent, but they are strong. From that evening forward, Alex and Lily were no longer just two young souls. They were two lives tied together by hope. Every step they took carried the weight of that promise. Every day they lived carried the light of that promise. For Alex, the world no longer felt small. For Lily, the town no longer felt strange. And for both of them, love had found a voice. Not in words, but in the quiet certainty of a promise shared under the moon. But life does not always follow promises. Life is like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes strong. Sometimes it changes direction without warning. For Alex and Lily, the river of life was about to change. The season had shifted. The trees turned golden, then brown. The air grew colder and the nights grew longer. It was during this season that Alex noticed something different in Lily's eyes. Her smile carried a shadow. Her steps were slower. Her gaze often drifted away, as if her thoughts were far from the town. Then, one quiet afternoon, the truth became clear. Lily's family could not stay. Her father had found a new job in the city. Her mother wanted a new life. The decision was made, and it was final. For Alex, the news was heavy, like a stone sinking deep into water. The world that had just begun to feel alive suddenly felt fragile again. The promise under the moonlight still lived in his heart, but reality was stronger. He could not stop the train of life that was pulling Lily away. The last days before her leaving passed quickly. Every hour felt too short. Every sunset looked like the last. Alex still walked with her by the river. He still saw the stars with her in the evening sky. But each moment was touched by sadness, by the knowledge that soon these moments would end. When the morning of departure came, the town felt different. The sky was pale, the air was heavy. The streets seemed quieter than ever before, as if the town itself understood loss. At the train station, bags and boxes were carried onto the platform. The train was waiting, its engine rumbling like a voice calling people away. Lily's family moved quickly, but for Alex, time felt slow. He watched every step. He remembered every detail. The color of her dress, the sound of the train, the way her hair moved in the wind. All of it pressed into his memory like words carved into stone. The train whistle blew, the doors closed, the wheels began to turn. And then Lily was gone, carried away by the sound of steel and smoke, carried away by distance that Alex could not cross. He stayed on the platform long after the train had disappeared. The tracks stretched into the horizon, straight and endless. But to Alex, they felt like a wall, not a road. A wall that separated him from the person who had become the center of his world. The promise they had made was still in his heart, shining like a candle in the dark. But the distance was greater than love, greater than promises. The distance had begun its work, pulling them apart, mile by mile, day by day. That night, Alex returned to the river alone. The water moved the same way as before. The stars shone as they always did. But nothing felt the same. Where once he felt hope, now he felt emptiness. Where once he felt warmth, now he felt cold. And yet, even in his sadness, Alex held on to the memory. The promise still lived, and though the distance had begun, he believed the heart could wait. After Lily left, the town felt empty for Alex. The streets were the same, but without her footsteps, they sounded hollow. The river was the same, but without her presence, its song felt lonely. The stars were the same, but without her eyes beside him, they felt distant. Yet Alex still held on to hope, because even if Lily was far away, her promise remained. And soon, that promise took the shape of words, words written on paper carried across the miles. The letters began to arrive. At first, every week brought a letter, thin envelopes with their handwriting on the front. Inside, the pages smelled faintly of the city, touched by her hands, filled with her thoughts. She wrote about her new school, about the noise of the city, about the tall buildings that blocked the sky. She wrote about missing the river, the silence, the stars. Alex read every word again and again. Once in the morning, once in the evening. Sometimes in the middle of the night when he could not sleep. He held the pages carefully, as if they were fragile pieces of her heart. For him, the letters were not just paper. They were proof that the promise was still alive. And Alex answered. He wrote back with care, filling his pages with the life of the small town. He described the fields after the rain, the sound of birds near the market, the moonlight over the river where they once stood. He told her that he was waiting with patience, waiting with hope. For a time, this exchange of letters was enough. The distance felt smaller. The silence felt lighter. The promise felt strong. But time is a slow river, and rivers always move forward. The letters began to change. First, they came later than before. 1 week became 2 weeks. 2 weeks became a month. The pages grew shorter. The words grew fewer. And then, one day, they stopped. Alex still went to the mailbox every morning. He still opened it with trembling hands. He still hoped to see her handwriting. But day after day, the box was empty. 1 week, no letter. 1 month, no letter. 1 year, still no letter. At first, he told himself she was busy. At first, he told himself she would return. But the silence grew louder, heavier, harder to ignore. The waiting became its own kind of pain. Every morning hope rose, and every evening hope fell. And slowly, painfully, Alex understood. Lily was gone, not only in distance, but in life. Still, he could not let go. He kept her letters, every single one hidden like treasure. Sometimes he opened them just to touch the paper, just to see the lines of her words. The letters became his memory, his only bridge to a love that was no longer near. In the quiet of his room, Alex sat with the letters spread before him. The ink was fading, the paper was worn. But for him, they were alive. Through them, Lily still spoke. Through them, the promise still whispered. Through them, love still survived, though only as an echo. Years passed. The seasons changed again and again, circling like the hands of a clock. Spring brought blossoms to the trees. Summer brought heat to the streets. Autumn painted the leaves gold, and winter covered the roofs with snow. Through it all, Alex grew older. He studied, he worked, he lived. But though his days were full, his heart carried a quiet space that nothing could fill. That space was shaped like Lily, her smile, her voice, her presence. Even as time moved forward, his memory of her stayed still, untouched, like a flower pressed between the pages of a book. One evening, when the sky was deep blue and the moon hung heavy over the town, Alex returned to the river. It was the same river where everything had begun. The same water moving gently forward. The same stones, the same trees, the same silence. But Alex was no longer the same boy. He was a man now, carrying the weight of years, carrying the echo of a love that had never fully left him. He stood there quietly, listening to the sound of the water, when he heard something unexpected, a voice. It was soft, it was familiar, and when he turned, he saw her, Lily. She was older as he was older. Her hair was shorter, touched with the light of time. Her face carried lines of experience, but her eyes, the same bright eyes, looked unchanged. For a long moment, the world was silent. It was as if the river itself paused to honor their reunion. They did not need many words. The years between them spoke for themselves. Alex understood without asking. Lily had lived her life. She had found her own path, her own family, her own world. And Lily understood without explaining. Alex had waited quietly, faithfully, carrying the promise in his heart. They stood side by the water, not as two young souls dreaming of forever, but as two grown lives acknowledging what once was. What they had shared was real. What they had shared was true, and though it could not return in the same way, it would never be lost. As the night deepened and the stars appeared, they said goodbye. No tears, no anger, only a gentle sadness mixed with quiet peace. Alex watched Lily walk away, her figure fading into the darkness, just as she once faded into the distance of the train. But this time, his heart did not break. This time, his heart understood. Love had been part of his journey. It had shaped him, stayed with him, and would remain in memory forever. That night, as Alex left the river, the stars above seemed brighter than before. And in their light, he carried not only sadness but also gratitude for the beauty of a love, even if it was sad, even if it belonged to the past. Thank you, my dear friend, for listening until the end. This was a sad love story, but also a beautiful one. Because even when love cannot last forever, love can still leave light in the heart. See you again in the next story.